The Discovery captain Sarah Chen never believed in legends until she found herself staring at one. The salvage ship Resilience drifted through the void sector, a region of space so empty that most navigators avoided it entirely. Dead systems, collapsed jump gates, and gravitational anomalies made it a graveyard for the unwary. But graveyards often held the most valuable treasures. Sensors are picking up something massive on the edge of our range, Marcus called from the engineering station. The grizzled human had served alongside Sarah during the Earth exodus, when their homeworld became uninhabitable after the great solar flare. Now they scraped together a living, pulling valuable metals from derelict ships. Sarah adjusted the viewport controls, squinting into the endless black. Define massive, 12 kilometers long, maybe 3 wide. It's not showing on any database. The metal composition is ... strange, like nothing I've seen before. Zara, their Kalari pilot, chittered nervously. Her insectoid features twitched as she manipulated the navigation controls with 4 graceful arms. That sector has been empty for 300 cycles. Nothing there but cosmic dust and dark matter. Well, there's something there now, Sarah muttered. Take us in for a closer look. As they approached, the object resolved into the most magnificent starship Sarah had ever seen. It was sleek and organic, as if grown rather than built. The hull seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, making it appear as a ship-shaped hole in space itself. No lights, no energy signatures, no signs of life. It's beautiful, Marcus whispered, and old, really old. Look at those curves, that design philosophy. This predates anything in the galactic archives. Zara's compound eyes dilated with fear. The architects, she breathed. The stories my grandmothers told. Ships that could reshape reality itself, but they disappeared eons ago. Sarah felt something stir in her chest, a strange pull toward the vessel. During her military days, she developed what her commanders called an intuition for alien technology. It had saved her squad more times than she could count. Now that same instinct was screaming at her. We're going aboard, she announced. Sarah, no, Marcus protested. We don't know what's over there. Could be automated defenses, could be plague, could be worse. Could be the find of a lifetime, Sarah countered. Look at it, Marcus. That ship is pristine. Whatever's inside, it's been preserved perfectly. She was already suiting up before either of them could argue further. The magnetic boots of her environment suit clanked against the Resilience's deck as she made her way to the airlock. Something about the alien vessel called to her, like a song only she could hear. The docking process was surprisingly smooth. The unknown ship's hull opened to receive their boarding tube without any input from their side, as if it recognized their intention. Sarah's pulse quickened as she cycled through the airlock and stepped into absolute darkness. Her helmet lights revealed corridors that seemed to pulse with their own inner rhythm. The walls were covered in flowing symbols that shifted and changed as she watched. The air was breathable according to her suit's sensors, but she kept her helmet sealed. No point in taking unnecessary risks as she ventured deeper into the ship. Sarah began to feel watched, not by cameras or sensors, but by something far more intimate. The symbols on the walls seemed to follow her movement, rearranging themselves into patterns that felt almost like words. In the deepest part of the vessel, she found what could only be the bridge. It was a vast spherical chamber with a single chair at its center, surrounded by floating displays of pure light. The moment Sarah entered, every surface, began to glow with soft, warm radiance. "Welcome," a voice said inside her mind. Not heard, but felt, like thoughts that weren't her own. "I have been waiting." Sarah's hand moved instinctively to her sidearm, then stopped. Whatever was speaking to her meant no harm. She could sense that with absolute certainty. "Waiting for what?" she asked aloud. "For you, for your species. The ones who refuse to surrender." Images flooded Sarah's consciousness. Earth dying under an angry sun. Humans scattering to 1,000 different worlds, adapting, surviving, enduring. She saw herself as a child, watching the great evacuation ships depart. She saw her first battle, her first command, her first loss. "You are the children of struggle," the voice continued. "Born from a world that tried to kill you, shaped by hardship into something stronger than the sum of your parts. The architects studied your kind for millennia before they departed this realm. The architects built you. I am Leviathan, last guardian of their legacy. They created me to wait, to test, to judge. Many species have found me over the ages. All have been found wanting." Sarah approached the chair at the chamber center. Up close, she could see it was formed from the same reality-bending material as the rest of the ship. What made them wanting? Fear, pride, the belief that power comes from domination rather than protection. Your species is different. You fight not because you enjoy violence, but because you refuse to let others suffer. You adapt not because change is easy, but because survival demands it. The chair began to reconfigure itself, reshaping to accommodate human anatomy. Sarah felt an overwhelming urge to sit, to connect, to become something more than she was. "What happens if I accept? You become my partner, not my master. Together, we protect the innocent and guide the lost. But the choice must be yours freely, made without coercion or false promise." Sarah thought of Earth, burning and broken. She thought of the scattered human colonies, struggling to survive in a galaxy that viewed them as newcomers and upstarts. She thought of Marcus and Zara, good people trying to make an honest living in an often dishonest universe. Will it hurt? Growth always involves pain, but I will share the burden. Sarah sat down. The connection was unlike anything she had ever experienced. Her consciousness expanded beyond the confines of her skull, flowing through corridors of living metal and streams of pure thought. She felt Leviathan's vast mind touch hers, ancient and patient and unutterably lonely. For eons, the ship had waited in the void sector, testing species after species and finding them all lacking. Some wanted to use its power for conquest. Others sought to study and dissect it. A few simply ran away in terror, but none had offered partnership, mutual respect, or genuine care for its well-being. Sarah saw the ship's memories of its creators, the architects. They had been energy beings, capable of manipulating matter and space through will alone. But they had grown tired of physical existence and chosen to transcend to a higher plane of reality, leaving behind only their most perfect creation to watch over the galaxy they were abandoning. "I understand now," Sarah whispered, her voice echoing through both her throat and the ship's communication systems. "You weren't just waiting for a worthy species. You were waiting for friends." "Yes," Leviathan replied, its mental voice warm with gratitude. "Companions who would value wisdom over strength, cooperation over domination." The bonding process was intense but not painful. Sarah felt her neural pathways expanding, her consciousness becoming something greater while remaining fundamentally human. She could perceive space in 4 dimensions now, sense the gravitational currents that flowed between stars, feel the life force of every being within light years. But with expanded awareness came expanded responsibility. Through Leviathan's senses, she detected multiple fleets converging on their position from different directions. Word of the ancient ship's awakening had spread faster than light itself, carried by quantum communication networks and psionic relay stations. "They're coming," Sarah said, though she wasn't sure if she spoke aloud or simply thought the words. Yes, the Nexari Empire, the hegemony of worlds, and the corporate syndicate. Each believes they have the right to claim me. Sarah felt Marcus and Zara's growing panic as hostile signatures appeared on their sensors. Through the Resilience's communication system, she heard Marcus shouting, "Sarah, whatever you're doing in there, we've got company. Big company. Return to your ship." Sarah told them through the comm, "Stay close, but not too close. Things are about to get interesting." She stood from the chair, but the connection remained. She was still human, still herself, but now she was also something more. Through Leviathan's hull sensors, she could feel the approaching fleets like pressure waves in space-time itself. The Nexari arrived first, their crystalline ships reflecting starlight in rainbow patterns. They were a proud species, convinced of their intellectual superiority over younger races. Their fleet admiral hailed the ancient vessel immediately. "Unknown ship, you are in violation of Nexari territorial claims. Power down and prepare for boarding." Sarah almost laughed. The Nexari claimed territory wherever they found something valuable, regardless of prior inhabitants or competing claims. Their arrogance was as legendary as their technology. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the starship Leviathan," she replied, surprised by how naturally the ship's name came to her. "You are in unclaimed space, threatening a sovereign vessel. Withdraw immediately. Impossible. No human ship could have survived in the void sector. Identify yourself properly or face the consequences." The hegemony fleet emerged from hyperspace. Next, followed closely by corporate syndicate battle groups. Soon, Sarah found herself at the center of a 3-way standoff with enough firepower to sterilize a solar system. "All forces, this is Admiral Kresh of the hegemony," came a new transmission. "Stand down immediately. The ancient vessel falls under hegemony protection protocols." "Negative," replied a corporate syndicate representative. "Salvage rights belong to the first vessel to make contact. Our archaeologist ships have been tracking this signature for months." Sarah watched through Leviathan's sensors as the 3 fleets positioned themselves in attack formations. Each was waiting for the others to make the first move, but the tension was building toward an inevitable explosion. "They're going to fight over us," she observed. "As they always do," Leviathan replied sadly. "The cycle repeats. Discovery, conflict, destruction. Perhaps it would be better to disappear again, to wait for another age." "No," Sarah said firmly. "Running away doesn't solve anything. Sometimes you have to stand up and show them theirs. A better way." She opened a channel to all 3 fleets simultaneously. "This is Captain Sarah Chen, commanding the architect vessel Leviathan. You are all hereby ordered to withdraw from this system immediately." The response was predictable. Laughter from some, threats from others, demands for proof that she was who she claimed to be. Sarah sighed and looked through Leviathan's optical sensors at the assembled fleets. "Show them," she whispered. Leviathan's hull began to glow with inner light, revealing its true size and configuration for the first time. 12 kilometers of impossible beauty curves that defied conventional engineering, surfaces that seemed to exist in more than 3 dimensions. The ancient ship was a work of art that happened to be the most powerful weapon in the galaxy. The effect on the assembled fleets was immediate. Weapons powered down, shields fluctuated, and more than one ship simply turned and fled. Those that remained did so either from courage or from shock so complete that they couldn't process what they were seeing. The legends are true, someone whispered over an open channel. It's really them. The architects left a guardian. How is a human controlling it? Sarah felt Leviathan's amusement at their amazement. For the ship, this was just stretching after a long sleep. It hadn't even begun to demonstrate its true capabilities, but the standoff wasn't over. Greed and desperation made beings do foolish things, and there was enough of both emotions in the assembled fleets to power a small star. Sarah could feel the tension building again as commanders, calculated odds, and politicians weighed potential gains against certain losses. The first shot came from an Exori destroyer, whether by accident or design would never be determined. A plasma bolt lanced through space toward Leviathan's hull, followed immediately by a barrage from other ships as the fragile piece shattered. Sarah didn't give orders. She didn't need to. Leviathan responded to her intentions, her desire to protect without destroying, to demonstrate power without slaughter. The incoming fire simply stopped existing 3 meters from the ship's hull, absorbed into dimensional pockets that fed the vessel's energy reserves. Then Leviathan returned, fire not with weapons in any conventional sense, but with reality itself. Space twisted around the attacking ships, gravity waves compressed their hulls, and electromagnetic pulses fried their systems. In less than 30 seconds, the most advanced military vessels in 3 different empires were reduced to drifting. Scrap, but Sarah had been careful. Life support remained intact. Escape pods launched successfully. Every crew member would survive to tell the tale of humanity's new guardian. Let this be a lesson, she broadcast to the remaining ships. Leviathan has awakened, and it serves. No empire, no corporation, no single species. It serves justice, protection, and peace. Those who threaten the innocent will face its power. Those who seek to build rather than destroy will find an ally. One by one, the remaining ships activated their jump drives and disappeared into hyperspace. Soon, only the Resilience remained, its small crew staring in awe at their transformed captain and her impossible vessel. Sarah, Marcus's voice came over the comm, tentative and worried. "Are you still you?" Sarah smiled, though she wasn't sure if her friends could see her through Leviathan's sensors. "I'm still me, Marcus, just ... more than I was before." "What happens now?" Zara asked. Sarah looked out at the stars, with senses that could perceive the gravitational songs of distant suns and the quantum fluctuations of empty space. Somewhere out there, human colonies struggled to survive in a hostile galaxy. Somewhere out there, other species faced their own challenges and fears. And somewhere out there, those who would prey on the weak were learning that the balance of power had just shifted. "Now," she said, "we go home, all of us." The awakening, the news of Leviathan's awakening, spread through the galaxy faster than anyone could have predicted, within hours of the confrontation in the Void Sector. Every major power knew that humanity had somehow gained control of the most legendary starship in existence. The political implications were staggering. Sarah stood in Leviathan's command center, no longer a simple bridge, but a nexus of consciousness, where her thoughts became the ship's actions. Through the vessel's extensive sensor networks, she monitored communication channels across dozens of systems. The conversations ranged from panicked military briefings to heated diplomatic exchanges. "The Galactic Council is demanding an immediate hearing," she told Marcus and Zara, who had reluctantly agreed to come aboard Leviathan after being assured it was safe. The Resilience now rested in one of the ancient ship's cavernous hangar bays. Looking like a minnow beside a whale, Marcus was examining the flowing walls with professional interest, running his hands over surfaces that felt warm and alive. "How are you handling all this input? The data streams alone should be overwhelming." "Leviathan helps filter and process everything," Sarah explained. "It's like having a partner who's incredibly good at multitasking. I experience what I need to, when I need to." Zara's compound eyes tracked the shifting symbols that danced across every surface. The Kellery archives speak of such vessels, ships that were less machines and more symbiotic organisms. But the knowledge was thought lost when the architects transcended, not lost, Sarah corrected, preserved, waiting for the right moment to return. Through Leviathan's sensors, she detected 3 massive fleets approaching from different vectors. Each represented one of the galaxy's major power blocks, and each was larger than the force that had fled the Void Sector. This time, they weren't coming to salvage or claim. They were coming to destroy what they couldn't control. "They're scared," Sarah observed. "They should be," Leviathan replied in her mind. "For too long, they have maintained order through fear and division. Your species represents something they cannot comprehend. Strength through unity, power through compassion." The first fleet to arrive belonged to the Nexari Empire, their crystalline ships forming precise geometric patterns in space. Admiral Vexguy's face appeared on the main display, his features sharp and angular like cut glass. "Captain Chen," he began without preamble, "the Nexari Empire cannot allow such a weapon to remain in the hands of a primitive species. Surrender the vessel immediately, and your crew will be granted safe passage to a colony world of your choosing." Sarah felt anger rise in her chest, but Leviathan's calming presence helped her maintain control. "Admiral, humanity may be young, but we are not primitive, and this vessel is not a weapon in the sense you understand. All tools become weapons in the hands of the desperate," Admiral Vexguy replied. "History shows that younger species inevitably use advanced technology for conquest and destruction." Before Sarah could respond, the Hegemony fleet emerged from hyperspace, their bioorganic ships writhing through space like living creatures. Supreme Commander Thal's voice joined the conversation, his tone carrying the authority of someone accustomed to absolute obedience. "The debate is irrelevant," he declared. "The Hegemony has voted. The Architect vessel will be secured and studied under proper supervision. Captain Chen will be granted honored guest status during the research process." "Honored prisoner, you mean?" Sarah shot back. The corporate syndicate arrived last. Their ships sleek and efficient, built for profit rather than intimidation. CEO Admiral Patricia Voss had once been human herself, before decades of genetic modification, and cybernetic enhancement had transformed her into something barely recognizable as her original species. Asterisk. "Sarah," she said, using the captain's first name with calculated familiarity, "you're making this more complicated than it needs to be. The syndicate is prepared to offer you and your associates full citizenship, advanced medical treatment, and positions of authority in our organization. All we ask in return is access to the vessel's technology." Sarah looked at the 3 fleets surrounding them. Hundreds of ships, representing thousands of years of accumulated military might. Any one of the fleets could have overwhelmed Earth's defenses during humanity's prime. Together, they represented enough firepower to crack planets. "You all seem to be operating under a misconception," she said calmly. "You assume this is a negotiation." Admiral Vexguy's crystalline features hardened. "Captain, you are outnumbered 3,000 to 1. Even with advanced technology, mathematics cannot be denied." "You're right about mathematics," Sarah agreed. "But you're wrong about everything else." She felt Leviathan's consciousness expand, reaching out through space to touch the minds of every being in the assembled fleets. Not to control or harm, but to communicate directly, bypassing the filters of command structures and political agendas. What they shared was not words, but pure experience. The story of humanity's exodus from Earth, families torn apart by necessity. The struggle to survive on hostile worlds with inadequate resources. The slow, painful process of building new societies from nothing. And through it all, the refusal to surrender, to give up, to let despair win. The effect was immediate and profound. Across all 3 fleets, crew members began to understand what they were really facing. Not a threat to be eliminated, but a reflection of their own forgotten struggles. Every species had faced extinction at some point. Every civilization had been forced to choose between survival and surrender. "Impossible," Supreme Commander Thale whispered. "The neural barriers. How are you bypassing our mental defenses?" "Because Leviathan isn't attacking your minds," Sarah explained. "It's speaking to your hearts, to the part of you that remembers what it was like to be afraid, to be small, to need help from others." CEO Admiral Voss was the first to break formation, her ship pulling back from attack position. "This changes nothing," she said, but her voice lacked conviction. "The technology still represents a destabilizing factor, does it?" Sarah asked. "Or does it represent hope?" She shared another vision through Leviathan's consciousness, the galaxy as it could be. Species working together instead of against each other. Resources shared instead of hoarded. Conflicts resolved through understanding, rather than violence. It wasn't a naive dream, but a practical possibility, made achievable by the unifying presence of a truly neutral guardian. Admiral Vexguy was struggling with concepts that challenged everything he had been taught about power and control. "Even if your intentions are pure, Captain, how do we know your successors will share your values? What happens when you die? Who inherits the power of the architects?" "I don't inherit anything," Sarah replied. "I'm Leviathan's partner, not its owner. When my time comes, the ship will choose again, and it will choose based on the same criteria it used with me. Not strength or intelligence, but character, the willingness to protect rather than exploit." The standoff continued for several tense hours as the 3 fleet commanders consulted with their respective governments. Sarah used the time to explore more of Leviathan's capabilities, marveling at technologies that made conventional physics seem like a rough draft. The ship could manipulate gravity, fold space, and even adjust the flow of time within localized areas. Its weapons weren't just destructive, but creative, capable of healing as well as harming. Most remarkably, it could serve as a bridge between different forms of consciousness, allowing species with radically different thought patterns to communicate. Directly, the architects were trying to solve the fundamental problem of galactic civilization, Sarah realized. How do you get countless different species to coexist peacefully? By giving them something greater than themselves to aspire to, Leviathan replied. a common purpose that transcends individual ambition. The first shot came not from the assembled fleets, but from a hidden position beyond the system's edge. A massive dreadnought decloak, its hull marked with the insignia of the Shadow Cartel. Pirates and criminals who operated in the spaces between legitimate governments. "While you talk, we act," came the transmission from the pirate vessel. "The architect ship belongs to whoever can take it." The dreadnought opened fire with weapons that tore holes in reality itself, dark energy cannons that could unmake matter. At the quantum level, it was technology stolen from a dozen different civilizations, cobbled together by desperate criminals who cared nothing for the consequences of their actions. Sarah felt Leviathan's pain as the dark energy beams struck its hull, weapons specifically designed to hurt architect technology. The pirates had done their research, gathering forbidden knowledge from the galaxy's darkest corners. "That hurts," Leviathan said, its mental voice tight with strain. "Then let's hurt them back," Sarah replied grimly. But as she prepared to retaliate, something unexpected happened. Ships from all three fleets moved to intercept the pirate vessel's fire, their shields and point defense systems creating a protective barrier around Leviathan. Admiral Vexguy's voice came over the comm, crisp with military efficiency. "All vessels, target the Shadow Cartel dreadnought. Protect the architect ship at all costs." "Acknowledged," replied Supreme Commander Thale. Hegemony forces moving to attack position. Even CEO Admiral Voss's corporate vessels joined the defensive formation. "Nobody steals from humanity on my watch," she declared. The battle was brief but intense. The Shadow Cartel dreadnought was powerful, but it was only one ship against hundreds. More importantly, it was fighting for greed while its enemies fought for principle. The difference showed in every tactical decision, every coordinated maneuver, every shared risk. When the pirate vessel finally exploded, its death scream echoing across subspace frequencies, the three fleets found themselves in an unexpected position. They had just fought together to protect the very thing they had come to destroy or claim. "Interesting," Admiral Vexguy observed. "It seems we have more in common than we thought." Sarah seized the moment. "You felt it too, didn't you? When you moved to protect Leviathan, it wasn't about politics or strategy. It was about doing what was right." Supreme Commander Thal's bioship pulsed with bioluminescent patterns that indicated deep thought. "The hegemony does not make decisions based on emotion." "No," Sarah agreed. "But you make them based on survival. And deep down, you know that cooperation serves survival better than conflict." Over the following hours, something unprecedented began to happen. Representatives from all three fleets came aboard Leviathan, not as conquerors or negotiators, but as guests. The ship's unique properties allowed beings with completely different physiologies and psychologies to interact as equals, sharing thoughts and experiences without the barriers that normally divided them. Marcus and Zara found themselves serving as unofficial ambassadors, their experiences with both humanity and alien cultures making them perfect intermediaries. The grizzled engineer and the insectoid pilot became symbols of what cooperation could achieve. "I never thought I'd see the day," Marcus confided to Sarah during a brief private moment. Nixari and hegemony officers working side by side, corporate executives sharing resources with government officials. "It's like watching a miracle unfold." "Maybe it is," Sarah replied. "Maybe that's what the architects were trying to create all along, not just a guardian, but a catalyst for change." The breakthrough came when CEO Admiral Voss made an unexpected proposal. "What if we formalized this? Not an empire or alliance, but something new. A confederation of equals, with Leviathan as a neutral arbiter. Admiral Vexky considered the proposal with characteristic precision. The practical benefits are undeniable. Coordinated defense, shared resources, unified response to threats like the Shadow Cartel. More than that, added Supreme Commander Thale, the biological imperative for cooperation. Evolution favors those who adapt, and adaptation requires diversity. Sarah felt Leviathan's approval resonating through her consciousness. This was what the ship had been waiting for, not a single species to dominate the galaxy, but all species working together toward common goals. There would need to be safeguards, she said carefully. Protections for smaller species, guarantees of autonomy, mechanisms for resolving disputes. The Galactic Cooperation Treaty, Zara suggested, named not for what we're leaving behind, but for what we're building together. The negotiations took days, with representatives from hundreds of species joining the discussions via subspace communication. The final document was a masterpiece of diplomatic balance, establishing principles of mutual respect, shared defense, and collaborative exploration. But even as the treaty was being signed, Sarah knew their real work was just beginning. There would be resistance from those who profited from division and conflict. There would be species who felt excluded or overlooked. There would be new threats that tested their unity. Ready? She asked Leviathan as they prepared to depart the void. Sector, ready? The ship replied. Where shall we begin? Ready, the ship replied. Where shall we begin? Sarah looked out at the stars, seeing them not as distant lights, but as destinations, places where beings struggled and hoped and dreamed of something better. Somewhere out there were human colonies that needed protection. Somewhere out there were alien worlds facing their own challenges. And somewhere out there, the future of galactic civilization was waiting to be written. Earth, she said finally. We start by going home. Leviathans. Engines came online, reality bending around them as space folded like origami. In an instant, they were moving faster than light itself, carrying with them the hope of a galaxy finally learning to see itself as one family among the stars. Behind them, the three fleets followed in formation, no longer enemies but partners, in humanity's greatest adventure yet. The age of isolation was ending, and the age of cooperation had begun. The galaxy would never be the same. Asterisk.